Hello and welcome to Getaway Day. This is This Week in Baseball for the week of May 9th. My name is Gautam. His name is Mason. And we've got a huge piece of news from Wednesday. Paul Skenes, ace in the making, uh, presumed ace for the Pittsburgh Pirates, has been called up or will be called up on Saturday to make his major league debut against the Cubs. And this is probably the biggest hyped up starting pitching prospect that we've seen since Stephen Strasburg. So it's been more than a decade since we've seen a guy that is this hyped up. He was the number one overall pick in the 2023 draft by the Pirates. Had an absolutely dominant season with LSU in 2023. Made his pro debut last year, and then has continued with some fantastic work at AAA this season. And I guess he started at AA this year too.
No, he started at triple.
He started at AAA, yeah.
Yep.
So he's kind of just been pitching great the whole time, but he's now um, had some longer starts, like 5 inning and 6 inning starts. The guy's ready.
Not quite.
Yeah, he hasn't had a 6 inning start.
He's had a 6 inning start, and he has not had any other 5 inning starts.
He got into the 5th inning in another start.
He got into the 5th inning twice, or 3 times, I guess, technically. Went 4 1/3, 6 the next outing, 4 1/3 again.
So I guess the first question that I'll ask about Skeens is he a guy that is going to go out there and pitch like 7 innings? Were they just holding him back, or are they going to continue babying him along?
So that is a great question. Something that I was seeing from Jake Mentz from Cespedes Family Barbecue. He and Jordan Schusterman think that he's just being held back to throw the bulk of his innings later on this year, and that he's a guy that is capable to go out and throw 5-6 innings a start and maybe get to the 7th. So there's some people that think that he very much can. It does feel like they're babying him a little bit, but really we won't know until we see him in the majors for the first couple of starts to see what their whole thing is with him. If they pull him at 80 pitches, well, then we kind of know what it is. If they pull him when he works into a lot of trouble and they just don't want to start out on a bad note, so they kind of help pick and choose when they pull him the first couple times, that's a different story. But if they're strict pitch limiting to something that's 80 pitches or lower, then it's definitely babying and not just helping him grow.
Yeah, it's a total wild card. We don't really know, and we can't really look at a guy like Jared Jones as a comp because his whole progression through the minor leagues is a lot different. He was a guy that pitched a lot of innings at AAA last year. They let him basically have as many innings as a guy in AAA can have these days, and even he's getting sort of babied along at the major league level. He's had starts where they said, "You're going 5 no matter what. It doesn't matter what your pitch count is. We're limiting you to 5 innings." So I feel like Skeens is going to be more of a 5 inning guy. Like he's going to be consistently probably pitching well, but he's not going to go super deep into games at all. I think in the early part of his career with the Pirates, but I don't know.
And
I think we should still be super excited.
100%. And to be honest, that kind of makes sense to me if they kind
Yeah.
of keep him, and because if they build a starting rotation that's actually pretty good, they still do have some pretty big holes in that club that you would hate to put them in a situation where they're potentially getting hurt at the end of this year, whenever next year you potentially have a much better chance to compete. So
That's true. Yeah. And just a little bit more on Skeens, what makes him so enticing as a prospect is the fact that he has 5 pitches already. A lot of times these young starters, they come in with one or sometimes two really good pitches, and then they struggle because they don't have a third out pitch or at least a competitive pitch that they can offer at the major league level. And and that's what separates good starters from um, guys that get stuck at AAA. I mean, there are pitchers that can succeed with 2 pitches, but it becomes all the easier when you got 5 like very good pitches. I mean, that's impressive.
Well, it makes it a heck of a lot harder for the hitters to figure out what you're going to throw. And in AAA, that has worked out to the tune of 43% strikeout rate. So if he can continue that, or even continue what he was doing across the other levels at a 35% strikeout rate, that's insane. 40 is basically unheard of for a starter.
It is, yeah. We haven't seen that ever. Strider got really close last year, but um, or in 2022, I think. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun, and we talked about it before. Jones and Skeens in the same rotation. That could be really fun for years to come.
With Mitch Keller being an actual pretty solid number 3 or 4.
Exactly.
So they're finally building the rotation that Pittsburgh has been trying to build for 30 years.
Oh, and they had JMO, Tyon, and Cole. That was pretty good. It was good. It didn't really work out, but it could have been good.
Garrett Cole is so washed. He always has been. He says as he's watching a Yankee game right now. Granted, it's Carlos Rodon bump night, not Garrett Cole, but still. Yeah. All right, speaking of good players, though.
Yeah, who's your player of the week?
My player of the week. So, a guy that you and I have talked about a little bit, kind of came out of nowhere, led the league in home runs given up last year. He's the only guy that was worse than Lance Lynn, or he was second to Lance Lynn. I don't remember which, but he's one of them. He is the only starting pitcher with 5+ starts that is not allowed a home run yet. Trevor Williams with a 1.96 ERA through almost 37 innings. He pitched twice this week. Both times only went 5 innings, but for the week, he had a combined 10 innings pitched, 7 hits given up, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts. So, in that second game against Baltimore, of all teams, he got 8 strikeouts, only gave up 2 hits, did not give up any runs in either start this week. He's been... I don't really even understand like how to describe it, because it's just, he is not the person that you would expect to do any of this.
Right. And it's really weird because if you look at like FIP, his FIP looks good, I think, but that's only because he hasn't given up a home run. So it's kind of skewed like that. But if you look at other standard stuff that I always look at for pitchers, like strikeout rate and walk rate, his strikeout rate's terrible. His walk rate is also not very good. How does he do this? What is going on? Like, I'm glad you brought him up because he deserves the credit for doing this. I just have no clue how he's doing it, and I have no expectation that it would continue.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like the fact that he had 8 strikeouts in a game, doesn't matter who it's against. Just 8 strikeouts in a game for him in general is nuts.
Yeah, the one thing I did notice is that he is throwing a sweeper this year way more than he used to. So maybe pitch mix helps and they're not looking for it. And, facing a team from the other league don't have like the full scouting report on him or something. But
that could be. And to be honest, they've faced 1, 2, 3, 4 American League teams he has so far. So that could actually be a pretty big part of it. Because they played Oakland and Houston, which against Oakland, he had 7 strikeouts, by the way. That was his other, like, crazy good game. Or at least strikeout-wise. He actually, that's the one he gave up the most runs, surprisingly, was to the A's.
A's are good, man.
Yeah. But Oakland and then Houston in back-to-back starts, and then Texas and Baltimore in back-to-back starts. So,
yeah. I mean, those are some good teams in there. So credit to Trevor. Good for him. My player of the week is Shohei Otani. And last week we talked about Mookie Betts leading all categories basically in everything. And you said he's running away with the
He is
MVP
no
candidate.
longer leading most of the or leading all of the categories.
In 1 week, in a matter of 1 week, Shohei has closed most of those gaps, if not taken the lead in many of them. And it's kind of crazy the week that he had. Just Wednesday to Wednesday, 22 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 8 RBI, 4 stolen bases, uh, an insane 588 batting average, and a 422 WRC plus. So there was a stretch where he went 8 for 9 with 4 home runs.
He knows that his elbow isn't fully healed yet, right?
Yeah, imagine if it was, what would be happening? I don't know.
Dang.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome what
In
the
that
guy's
home
doing.
run, in that home run that sounded like it was a shotgun blast.
Yeah, he had a home run to dead center field that, yeah, it sounded like a gun had gone off. And
What was that off
Shohei
the
is
bat?
totally,
Do you know what the exit velocity on that was?
I don't know, but yeah, his home runs just sound different. And I'm just amazed that none of the drama going on externally has affected him in the slightest, or at least he's not showing that it's affecting him. Because we always talk about guys in the first year of new contracts struggling right off the bat. We see that all the time, and we haven't seen it at all. There's been no drop off.
Yeah. And we're talking about this on the day that his former interpreter agreed to plead guilty to a couple of charges that could put him in prison for up to 30 years. So
Yeah.
this is the guy who was Shohei's best friend for 6 years. So, like, with all that going on in the background, him not having a fully healthy right elbow.
Yeah, plus he's doing all the rehab for that while
Yeah.
he's doing this stuff on the field too.
Yeah. It's just nuts.
Yeah. There's no other words for it. So Shohei, we haven't talked about him that much this year, I feel like. So he needed to be mentioned, coming off his best week as a Dodger so far.
Yeah, I figured it was going to get to the point in the season where we talked about him every week. So I was just waiting.
But this week he deserves it.
Yeah, this week he deserves it. This is the beginning. We'll probably talk about him every week for the rest of time now. But I wanted to give some other guys some attention.
Fair enough. Wilson Contreras was injured in a kind of freaky way yesterday. JD Martinez up to bat, and he just straight up hits Wilson on a swing, not the backswing, the full swing, and hits him right in the arm.
Catches him right here. If you guys are watching the video, if you're not watching the video, basically it was about 3 inches above his wrist on his forearm. Got hit with the full power of essentially a lumberjack swing at a log. If you look at the video, that's kind of just the angle of the swing. Right into his forearm. Wilson immediately, like, glove off the hand. His hand just went completely limp. It was not a pretty sight for a while. You kind of had a feeling that something had broken while he was just sitting there on the ground. But yeah, he's out 6 to 8 weeks with a forearm fracture. Not sure if it's the radius, the ulna, or both. I haven't found that yet. I am curious to know.
Yeah.
But
So we have a lot to discuss here, but I'll first start out with the impact on the Cardinals, because it's not good, because Wilson was by far the best offensive player this year for the Cardinals. He's actually having like a top 10 season in terms of like WAR, for example, in the league. He's having a fantastic start to the year, and they lose their starting catcher. So obviously it's not something that's going to be easy to cover for.
Well, and this year, Wilson had gone from 40th in pitch framing last year to 21st so far this year. He had gone from I'm trying to remember what the other stat that I was going to say was. But basically, he's improved his defense a ton. And he's been part or like a pretty big portion of the reason why the pitching staff has been doing as well as it has. He's also been the only steady offensive player the Cardinals have had. As far as even just catchers in the league, he is behind only Ryan Jeffers in WRC plus for the season for catchers by 1. So he is right up there as the best hitting catcher in the league right now, while being an actual solid, like, middle of the league defensive catcher. The impact he has on the Cardinals cannot be overstated. And seeing him go down in the second inning with something that just looked that painful, like the fact that he's only going to be out 6 to 8 weeks after surgery astounds me. I thought it was going to be like 3 to 4 months. So
Yeah, I mean that seems like it's a pretty short timetable, and maybe it's just because it's a bone break that hopefully it was just like a clean break and there was no other damage that happened.
yeah.
But yeah, agree. They have to now turn to Ivan Herrera, a young catcher. Shows a lot of promise, but it's big shoes to fill, and he's never he's never done the everyday thing at the major league level, and
And
it's
then
a major learning curve.
and then a backup who has only been in the game about 3 times at the major league level got his first start. Well, he was supposed to get his first start today before the game was postponed due to rain, but in Pedro Paez. So it's going to be an interesting couple of months here, seeing how the whole pitcher catcher relationships go.
Yeah, it's an
Ivan,
interesting dynamic, right? With two young catchers at the same time. Usually, it's like combination of the young guy and the veteran
yeah.
with catchers.
Now with Ivan, like, he has actually caught a lot of the guys on this roster for a significant amount of time. Like, he came up through the minors with a lot of guys that are like in the bullpen at least. And he is a really good defensive catcher. Like, that's his main thing, is defensive catcher with a decent bat. So it's not like he was a bat first catcher that we're throwing in there hoping he could figure it out. Like, this is potentially going to be disastrous for our already horrific offense. But with him being the everyday backstop, I don't have a whole lot of issues with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's an awesome opportunity for him to step up. The other side of this that we need to talk about, you asked me this morning whether the rules of where the batter stands in the batter's box needs to be better enforced or clarified or something like that, because we did a little bit of digging into catcher's interference, and they are steadily on the rise over the last 10 years or so,
I don't know that I would
perhaps
call
even
that
longer.
steadily. I think I would call that almost exponential.
Yeah, that's true. In the
Like,
last like 5 years or so, it's really rocketed up to the point where we saw 96 catchers interferences in 2023. This year, we're already up to over 30 in just 20% of the season. So we're on pace to smash that record. And we have a couple of theories why that might
well,
be.
I want to give just a little bit more context. So 96 last year, but when I say it's been growing exponentially, go back 10 years, 25 throughout the entire league over the course of a season, 25 catchers interferences. We've now quadrupled that in 10 years, and we're on pace to shatter that again this year by a lot. So,
But if you only give the first point and the last point, then it's just a line. You don't know it's exponential.
all right, 25. 3 years later, it was 41. 3 years after that, it was 61. 3 years after that, it's 96.
Yeah. Um, But there's a couple of reasons for why this is happening in our opinion. The first is that um, catchers are trying to set up closer to home plate. They're trying to steal low strikes. Um, they're trying to frame better because every little aspect of what a catcher does behind the plate to um, get calls, it's all an art. It's all part of the performance of being a catcher.
So this is me nitpicking word choice, but I'm going to do it for a very specific reason here. You phrased it as stealing low strikes. Like, yes, there is a portion of framing where you're trying to get something that's not a strike called a strike, but the main thing here is to get things that are strikes actually called strikes that are at the low portion of the zone. So it's not so much stealing strikes as helping the umpire figure out where it actually crosses the plate as opposed to where it's finishing in the catcher's glove.
Sure. Yeah.
So there's part of it that's that. And John Boy Media, love them or hate them, they do some good stuff. On Twitter today, they had a video that was showing Wilson Contreras' setup over the last 3 years and how he's gotten not gradually, how he's gotten significantly closer to the batter each year. So it does a good job of overlaying like the two or the three, I guess, points of his glove just compared to the batter's box. So go check that out if you don't fully understand what we're talking about. But
Yeah. And then the second reason is velocity, and a lot of different things that have happened in baseball are due to velocity, in my opinion. And this is another one because batters want another split second to make their swing decision, so they're trying to stand as far back in the box as they possibly can, and um, they need to be able to adjust to the break and the velocity. So when these two ideas kind of clash, then they physically are clashing in the form of catcher's interference.
and then you mix in the fact that I think technically the rule is the batter has to stand with both feet inside the box. Standing on the line is acceptable. Being outside of it with either foot is considered being out of the batter's box. With JD Martinez yesterday, he didn't do anything wrong. He's setting up the way that he's set up the entire season and probably the past 5, 6, 7 seasons. His foot was outside the batter's box. Not by much, but his full foot was outside. Technically, that is against the rules. My point this morning to Gautam was, is this something that with this drastic rise in catcher's interference that they're going to have to start policing, like the sticky stuff? It was just something that it was a rule, but it wasn't enforced. Then we started enforcing it. Is this going to be the next one of those? Because as you have batters coming back, you have catchers coming forward. It's a fine line between where a catcher can be and not get hit with a bat. And it's dangerous. Like, bat speeds are getting higher and higher every year because guys are training to increase their bat speed. So it feels like this is maybe one of those Buster Posey rule moments or the sticky stuff crackdown. But it's not going to solve everything. Like, there's a point where the teams have to realize that, yes, they're going to get more called strikes the closer their catcher is, but they're putting their catcher and their team at risk of a serious injury like this by moving them closer and closer and closer.
So I guess I just had the thought, robo umps would fix this problem, because then you wouldn't have an issue with catchers needing to steal or just have strikes be strikes, because that shouldn't be part of the game, really, because umpires should be making the right calls regardless of what happens after the ball crosses the plate.
Yeah, and that's actually where my brain was going at the very beginning of this, and why I was trying to set it up the way it was it does seem like the true fix for this problem is to have an automated strike zone. it's one of those that uh, maybe honestly the way that they're doing it in double and triple A with the challenge system
Yeah.
is enough to fix that, because you could have your catchers back and then they'll say, no, that was a strike when it crossed the plate, challenge it, get your call.
Yeah, that's my preference for where they should go first. They shouldn't make the full leap to full balls and strike calls by an by a robot. They should
Yeah,
go challenge first.
yeah, because there is a part of it that's kind of fun and cool to see the human error and just the in moderation, the human error in moderation, and
Yeah,
catchers being able to use their skills to benefit their team by getting an extra strike call here and there. But it's the ones that are so egregious
exactly.
or dangerous that are the ones that need to be adjudicated.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Let's get on to some other things that happened this week. There was a big trade that went down, a early May trade, which rarely happens these days. Luis Arias was traded from the hapless Marlins to the Padres, and the Marlins will receive reliever Woosuck Go, and then outfield prospect Dylan Head, Jacob Marcy, and first base prospect Nathan Martorella. So this is a very interesting trade. I'll let you take it from whichever side you like.
So it's a little bit of a confusing trade to me for a couple of reasons. Some of it on, or really none of it on the Marlins side. But just looking at the return that the Marlins got, I do really like it. Dylan Head, Jacob Marcy, they're both really good prospects. Nathan Martorella, I don't really know him too much, but I mean, they've got basically 3 lottery tickets here, and 2 of them are like $5 scratch offs, and one of them's maybe a $2 scratch off. So chances are you're going to get something out of it. Are you going to get a batting champion like you had in Luis Arias? Probably not. Then again, Luis Arias wasn't doing anything for you other than being a batting champion. Like, he wasn't driving in runs. He's not a great defensive guy. But then the Marlins get Woosuck Go, which this is the one that confuses me. Because Woosuck Go was signed to a 4-year contract with the Padres coming into this season. He was immediately sent to the minor leagues, and supposedly he was included in this deal as part of a roster shedding move. So, or sorry, not roster shedding, money,
Dollar sending, dollar
payroll shedding.
Yeah.
What happened between them going, we really like this guy, we're going to sign this left-handed reliever out of Korea, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Out of Korea to a 4-year deal to be in our bullpen, to all of a sudden we don't even want him in the organization. We just want to get rid of the money on the contract.
Well, here's the thing. That's AJ Preller's thing. If he feels like his opinions change on a player or whatever, then he'll make the move. He's got no issue with that. And that's the thing that AJ Preller is actually best at. He is a great, great scout. How many times have the Padres made trades over the last several years, and trade away like a lot of big prospects? They still have more and more prospects that they're able to use to make more trades for established players. Um, that's why I feel like it's okay. They lost some good prospects in Head and Marcy and other guys too, and Woosuck Go. But I think the Woosuck Go thing, like you're saying, it's a dollars and cents thing. I think the Marlins are paying down a lot of Arias' salary. Woosuck Go goes back, so they lose that salary as well. It's just a way to
So,
make
but
it work.
my question is, with him being in the minors and getting traded and them shedding salary, was there is there something the Marlins should be like worried about with him as far as like just as a player in the organization, or I guess I don't know. Are they gonna
We can't really
immediate?
have an opinion on Wusak Go.
Well,
Obviously,
yeah. Like, are they immediately gonna bring him up to the majors?
I don't see why they wouldn't, right, at this point.
Yeah.
They're the Marlins, they have, like, less than 10 wins at this point in the season. They're basically in tryout mode for the rest of the year. Maybe Wusak Go is a great pitcher and turns out to be their closer like he was in Korea, and he was, like, a really pretty good one. Um, it's worth it to find out, if you hit on one reliever and you hit on one of these, prospects, then you feel pretty good about trading basically 2 years of Luis Arias.
So my other question here is how much of the prospect package value comes from shedding Wusat Go's salary versus the Padres getting Luis Ariz? Because
Well,
like,
I think the bigger factor there is that the Marlins are paying for better prospects by paying some of Arias's salary. So that's why I think that most likely this is a pretty good return in terms of like the prospect value.
yeah, okay.
You got anything else on this trade? I mean, um, from the
I-
Marlins side, it just makes a ton of sense. Like we're saying, they have no reason to keep him around. I could see more guys going now, right? Maybe Jazz Chisholm gets traded.
Yeah, how many years does Jazz have left?
He's probably got 2 years left.
With his kind of injury history, I don't know that he's got ridiculously high trade value. Like, it's definitely deflating his value
Right.
with his injury history past. I could see him getting moved, but I feel like with him, you have to make sure that you're getting the right return. Like, honestly, Jazz is actually a guy that makes more sense for the Padres, in my opinion, here. Because, like, they're paying a lot of money for Xander Bogaerts, but Xander Bogaerts is not exactly playing well and didn't last year either. Like, Jazz seems like a guy that could come in, play second base or shortstop or whatever, and actually improve this team at that position. Whereas Luis Ariz, bring him in, and what does he get you? A DH that's going to get on first base?
I mean, that's the thing. You can't really do anything with Bogarts, right? He's literally got 10 years left on his deal.
Yeah,
So he's on the field. He's going to play all the time.
that's
But yeah,
true. But
it's a kind of a weird positional fit for Arise. I mean, they didn't really have a DH, but with Cronenworth playing well, Bogarts and Kim up the middle, Arise kind of only fits as a DH.
I mean, you don't really have a DH, but like, I would rather have like my bench guys rotate at DH than a guy who is literally the definition of one dimensional. Like, he's a guy that his slugging percentage is 1,000, but it's because he gets a single every time and that's it. He's not a power guy. He's not getting to second. He's not getting to third. Singles. That's it. He doesn't walk. But I mean, a single and a walk are the same. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It does not make a lot of sense to me. I
Okay.
understand Luis Ariz is a good player, but he also is a good player that doesn't seem to fit a lot of teams' needs. And this is one of those.
I didn't realize you were such a Luis Arias hater.
I didn't
I
either.
thought I was the hater.
I didn't either until right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all coming out.
Well,
All right.
this is exactly how we found out about my mortal enemy, Dick Monfort, as well.
Yeah. The
So,
podcast brings out all your hatred, I guess. All right.
so
Let's do
should we start
another.
talking about Ali Marmol?
No, 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 no. We got to save that for a full hour. We got a couple injury notes here. Ryan Pepio is placed on the IL. He got hit by a comebacker and it hit his leg, I think. And So luckily, it's not like an arm injury, and he should be back, I assume, in 15 days or whatever. But that's unfortunate because Ryan Pepio was carrying out what he did at the end of last year with the Dodgers, and he was looking like a nice return, part of the return for Tyler Glass now, and I think he's an up and coming near the front of the rotation type guy, and too bad to see him down for a bit. But there's good news on the Rays injury front because they're getting a starting pitcher back to their rotation in Todd Bradley.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest silver lining ever in this situation because their third best starting pitcher, at least according to WAR, just went on the IL. It's already a team that has not been the same is the last couple seasons. It doesn't seem like they've been able to just make it work with whoever was available on any given day. And so losing a guy who's been as effective as Ryan Pepio, it's huge. Like he's a guy that's constantly keeping you in games. He's got a 3.6 ERA. That's pretty darn solid. He strikes out 30% of batters. He walks a decent number of guys, but like he keeps you in games. So losing another guy like that is massive. Getting Taj Bradley back, a high upside young starter who was a guy that you were planning on building on this year, it definitely makes that loss hurt a bit less. So the timing there could not have been better for Taj to come off the IL.
Yeah, for sure. More injuries. Trey Turner is going to be out for 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. That's also a tough blow for the Phillies, but they have been just rolling. They're probably the hottest team in the league right now. They've overtaken the Braves for first place in the division. The offense is just clicking on all cylinders. I think they're going to be fine. I mean, it sucks you lose Trey Turner, but they're the Phillies. They're gonna be fine. I think Bryson Stott and Mundo Sosa filling the hole for the time being.
They're
Uh,
26-12.
they've been just on fire.
If the Braves had like a lot of games rained out, because they've played 5 less games than the Phillies.
Interesting.
Wild.
Wild, yeah.
Huh.
And then another hamstring injury to Stephen Kwan. I feel like this is a bigger deal than the Phillies losing Turner because Kwan's a big part of that team's offense, and his success has kind of been a huge thing for this Guardians team that's gotten off to an unexpectedly fast start. Like you can't place this guy. Even though he's a lot like Luis Arias, he just feels like way more valuable because of defense and like more power that he brings to the table.
Yeah, this is definitely a big loss for the Guardians. Like, this is a Guardians team that has been. I mean, we talked about this last week,
Last
2 weeks
week,
ago.
yeah,
Yeah, like they've been playing incredibly well, hitting better than anyone expected with a lot more power than anyone expected. Like part of that was Stephen Kwan showing up hitting four home runs.
I think three.
3. But him, Josh Naylor, Jose Ramirez, but like you lose one of those guys, and that's a. It seems like their replacement guys aren't quite up to the same tier that you would hope for a replacement guy.
Yeah.
So losing one of your 3 big hitters, that's a big blow.
Yeah.
But they're still 24-13 with a 2.5 game lead in the division. So like they're in an okay spot. It's not like this is the Astros losing Jordan or something like that.
Just as a
So
side note, I'm more worried about the Guardians pitching holding up because they've kind of looped their way through this early part of the season. And I think it's going to get really tough now. And then last injury note, Christian Encarnacion Strand broke his wrist on hit by pitch, so he'll be out for I believe 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks.
And probably
And
not the same guy coming back out of it. I mean, we saw how long it took Jonathan India to recover and actually get to where he had his power. Tommy Edman is still recovering from his. Like, he was expected to be on the opening day roster when he had his surgery. And now we're here in May and he's still not like in full baseball activity. Like,
yeah,
wrists and wrist injuries are a big deal, which is why honestly it's a blessing that like Wilson Contreras broke his actual forearm and not his wrist.
right.
So
And CES had not even really started to get going at all offensively. He was like not not really hitting, not really getting to power at all. The Reds lineup in general has been kind of disappointing. So I kind of see Candelario taking the reps at first base now. I'm not really sure who will play third. They'll have to figure it out. But a team that we thought had too many infielders now is shorthanded all of a sudden. It happens fast.
yeah, PED suspension and a broken wrist will do that.
PED suspension.
Noelvi Marte.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I had forgotten. And McLean being injured, so yeah.
Oh yeah, I forgot about McLean.
Mhm.
Dang, yeah, they're hurting right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then the Yankees though. Yankees look like they're uh, really heating up and they've actually had a great start to the year. But the mashers are doing the mashing. Today they just absolutely teed off on Spencer Arrighetti of the Astros. So if you're a Yankees fan, you're probably extremely happy right now because you hate the Astros and your team is doing work. Juan Soto is an absolute pleasure to watch right now. He's on such a mission. Um, just in the first 3 innings of the game on Wednesday, he had a home run to left center field on the first pitch of an at bat, and then in the third inning, he legged out an infield hit. So guy can do it all. OPS over 1,000. He's got 8 home runs, hitting over 330. This is some kind of platform year, and he's going to make the Yankees pay a lot of money for him, just like Judge did in 2022.
Yeah, he wants that $500 million contract.
I think he's going to get it. Yeah,
I think he will too. Like, he's 26,
he's 25.
25.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, he'll get 500 million. Honestly, if he backloads it the way Shohei did, he could get 6.
yeah.
Like, I could see it. But speaking of the Yankees, Jeremy Pena just went deep on this Gonzalez guy out of the bullpen.
Okay.
But, but yeah, no, this Yankees team is quite good. They're fun to watch, which is really hurtful for me to say. I have friends that love the Yankees. I love that for them. I have this thing where I am naturally supposed to hate the Yankees, and I would like to hate the Yankees, and I really can't. And it sucks, and I don't like it.
They're not hateable.
I know. Giancarlo Stanton today hit the major league leading like hardest hit of the season on a 119.9 mile an hour home run.
He shocked
Like,
himself. He was like feeling himself after he hit that one, and it was awesome. And then Judge got in on the fun as well. He hit a home run. He's really heating up. Judge and Stanton and Volpe were all sitting next to each other, just having a laugh in the dugout. Judge and Stanton next to Volpe. Volpe's not like a small dude, but he literally looks like a 12-year-old child, like standing right next to them.
I'm not convinced he isn't a 12-year-old child.
He might be. Yeah. So looking like it's going to be a fun year for the Yankees. And I'm going to skip the A's because we're going kind of long here. I do have a question for you though.
All right, what do you got?
So Mike Trout went down with an injury, so the Angels really needed an outfielder to play center field, and the one they found was Kevin Pillar, who had himself a hell of a game yesterday, a two-homer game, probably the best game that he's had in years upon years. Um, how many teams do you think that Kevin Pillar has played for since 2019 when he was on the Blue Jays?
Since 2019.
And can you name those teams?
Okay, so Pilar has played on the Mets, obviously the Angels, the Braves, I'm trying to remember if him and Kiermaier essentially switched spots, if he went and played at the Rays. No?
He did not play for the Rays.
He wasn't in Houston. Wasn't in Texas. Did he play for the Guardians?
Nope.
No? Was there an AL Central team though?
Yes, there was this year.
The White Sox.
He was on the White Sox earlier in 2024.
Okay.
So you've got 4 teams. You're going to be disappointed to know that you're not even halfway there. Kevin Pillar has played for 9 teams since 2019.
And I'm struggling this hard to think of him?
Yeah, because he didn't play for these teams for very long. So I'll just go ahead and fill out the rest. So from 2019, when he was on the Blue Jays, he got traded to the Giants.
Oh, was he in Arizona?
Nope. 2020, he was on Boston and the Rockies. 2021, he was on the Mets. And then 2022, he was on the Dodgers. 23 on the Braves. And then 2024 with the White Sox and now the Angels. So Kevin Pillar has been like doing some frequent flying. Like, this is incredible.
So he's been on 10 teams total then. Yes. Or no, nine teams.
Yeah, 9 teams.
I can math, I promise. 5 to go.
5 to go. Yeah.
All right. We'll see if he can do it
by 2026.
I mean, to be honest, the Reds are probably going to lose an outfielder and are going to need some help. They just called up Connor Capel today. So okay. I can see it happening.
Yeah. So that's the life of the journeyman. I mean, Kevin Pillar played for one team for his first 7 years of his career, and then he's been everywhere because he's a useful guy to have around. He plays center field. He's not good with the bat, but he can stand up there and pretend to help.
He doesn't run away. Game. He doesn't run away when the pitch comes at him.
Yeah.
So that's big. That's why I'm not in the majors.
Yeah, he did get hit in the face that one time, right?
Yeah, forgot about that.
And he still doesn't run away from the ball.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's kind of brain dead and forgot that that's dangerous.
Could be. Got anything else for us before we say goodbye?
I don't think so.
All right. So that's This Week in Baseball, and we will talk to you next time. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app and YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.